exciting topic we're going to discuss. We're talking about circadian rhythms and how to time shift to eliminate jet lag. So many of us love to travel or have to travel for work, but dislike dealing with jet lag. And that was me. I would lose days of work or sightseeing time because I'd have to sleep or stay in my room just to overcome jet lag, but it doesn't have to be that way. We don't need to beat ourselves up and beat up our bodies when we travel. In fact, wellness tourism is becoming a huge trend now in 2023. Wellness travel actually is travel associated with the pursuit of maintaining or enhancing one's personal well-being. That's according to the Global Wellness Institute. So as wellness and travel continues to grow, I love what Dr. Robbins has to say. Hold on one second, I'm going to admit somebody else. Dr. Robbins says, the notion of travel actually rejuvenating you and allowing you to return home refreshed and restored is a really exciting proposition. So I had an opportunity to go to India this year in December, and I was preparing for my trip, and I was thinking about the jet lag I was going to feel and my short trip I had. I only had 2 weeks in India. So, you take 2 days of travel out of that and you'd be left with 10 days. That's not a lot. And I started to look at, think about it and what was I going to do? And I came across Timeshifter. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. It's an app that's going to help me. So when I just, I called Mickey, I spoke with him for about 5 seconds. And I told him I'm going to India and I'm going to try his app. And I'm going to get back with him when I return and let him know what I thought. So, if it works for astronauts and scientists, it will work for me too, right? Well, here's how it works. For one thing, so it's really, what I found was, number one, it was so simple to use, really, really easy. All I did was I put in where I was going, when I was leaving, and it actually sets up for you when you should receive light or when you should sleep or when you should take caffeine or melatonin if you do have melatonin. It customizes a jet lag plan for you pre and post travel. So not only we always think about jet lag when we're going somewhere. We never think about jet lag when we're coming back. That was very interesting to me. I didn't think about that part. I was like, oh, we're all set to go on this trip and thinking, okay, I want to eliminate jet lag. But I never thought, well, when I come home, I need to start working again. So I need to get back on track as fast as possible. And that's what this app does. It gets you it gets you to your best as fast as possible. It gets you to align your circadian rhythm. That's actually how Timeshifter works. Setup, super easy. As I said, you just input your, and another thing I really enjoyed was you input your typical sleep plan. So, for example, I go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. I'm embarrassed to say, but I do. I'm an early sleeper and I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It adjusts that to me. That's what I do. And I want to do the same thing when I go away. I don't want, I'm not going to all of a sudden get up at 11 because I'm away and go to sleep at 10 at night. No, I want to stay as close to my circadian rhythm. And that's what it does. It personalizes it. It tells you when, so, aesthetically, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful app. I wish all apps looked as beautiful as this one. Honestly, it's sleek, it's modern. It sends you notifications when you need them. A lot of the time you just forget, you're away and you forget, I need to get some light now, or I need to, let me take some coffee or whatever, not take coffee, also that's the other thing. So all around, I mean, I honestly thought the app was amazing. It really, I have to say, so a day after I arrived in India, I was awake at the Taj Mahal while everybody else was like all walking around all tired and drowsy. I'm all perky and everyone's wondering why. And, it just served as an excellent reminder for me of when to do what I needed to do. So that being said, I'm going to move on and introduce our guest today, who is now my friend, Mickey Bear Clausen, who is from Denmark, but has lived in New York for almost 20 years. Mickey is an entrepreneur and the co-founder and CEO of Timeshifter, a circadian technology pioneer. Hi, Mickey. How are you today?
Hi, Ruth. I'm fine. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you. So, I told a little bit about what your app does. What I wanted you to tell a little bit about is, how did you come up with this idea? What made you think about it?
Well, I was extremely lucky to be, I guess, at the right place at the right time. A few folks had been working on applying circadian rhythms in different settings, including with Formula One drivers, at NASA, to help astronauts travel for training to Russia, Germany, and Japan, where they need to hit the ground running. But the same science, which we can talk about a little bit later, is not just helping us tackle jet lag, it also helps tackle other big problems. So it was also applied to mission controllers, for space missions and shift workers in general. And so after all these groups of people had applied the science in their extreme, you could say, lives, an astronaut, it's not really someone I associate myself with, but then the next step was to make it available to the masses. And these folks from Harvard Medical School and from NASA, I met them, about 5 years ago, I believe, 5-6 years ago, and because of my technology background, it was a perfect fit in that, I could maybe help translate this science into a technology solution that, could then be made available to millions of people, instead of it being done the way it had been done in the past, which was on Excel sheets or, a piece of paper, a PDF, and took a lot of time to create each plan. So we simply met, and then we decided to start with jet lag as the first area, although many other solutions are in the pipeline. We decided to start with jet lag because we all know what jet lag feels like. And it's a fun showcase to showcase what circadian science can do for us.
Right. So from like the jet lag, you moved into the shift work app.
Which is the same type of problems, right? I mean, whether you jet travel to other time zones or you change your work schedule, essentially what you're doing is it results in a misalignment of your circadian rhythms, to that new work schedule, the new destination time zone, and then you have all these symptoms that we can talk more about. But yes, shift work, it could be, we're also helping Formula One drivers with peak performance. So when they are competing in races, we can get their biology ready for that time. So with or without jet lag. So there are all these different exciting areas, but yes, shift work is the new thing that we launched a new app for shift workers that we're very, very excited about, because of course it's not just once in a while for shift workers as it is with travel for us. We don't travel every day. Internationally, we travel, once a month, once every quarter, once a year, whatever it is. Whereas if you're a shift worker, then you're changing your work schedules constantly, and so for them, it's a real problem that goes a little bit deeper than jet lag.
And one of the areas that is dear to my heart is hospitality, and I find that it's because I came from there. And I find that a lot of people in hospitality, whether they be the hoteliers that are working many hours or 6 a.m. in the morning or even earlier. I mean, sometimes they're setting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. From them to the meeting planners that have to get there.
Yep.
You think about all those people as well. At least I do, because that's what I did. And I found it really difficult. So I would think it would be a great app for a planning company or a hospitality company to use to help get their people on board a lot quicker, and in a better way.
I mean, now clearly I'm biased, but for those of you who don't know me, I mean, what I'm passionate about is really creating something meaningful. The financial side of things really doesn't, it's important, yes, but it's not really what drives me. So yes, when I say I'm biased, I'm not really biased in the way that I'm just, I feel like this is a science that everyone that travels should be using, whether it's for business or for vacations or for sports you do in other countries. It's just a no-brainer because it's so impactful. You don't lose valuable time. You feel it, you have energy when you need to have energy. You sort of extend your vacations without extending the vacation. You're there for 7. You talked about, India. When you can enjoy day 1 and 2, it becomes a much more interesting vacation for you than if you only had 8 days or 7 days where you felt great. And then coming back home, I know for business travelers in particularly, including myself, when I travel for business internationally and I get home on a Friday, if I didn't have Timeshifter, I'd be a zombie on the couch all weekend instead of helping my wife with chores and being with the kids and have some quality time. And so to me, it's just, there's no silver bullet. This is not a pill you take and then you don't have jet lag, but it can help you shift 3 to 4 times as fast as normal. And that's a lot. That's not just a little bit. It's where you really feel very, very different when you get there. And so, yeah, I hope people will try it out and enjoy it like you did.
Yeah, well, by the way, everyone, we will be posting a link to this app, the Timeshifter app, on our website after this session, so that you can all get it. Number 2, if you want to try it, like I did when I went to India, you can try it for free. And see what you think, and then if you like it, you can subscribe to it. It's a nominal fee, really, for a yearly subscription. If you travel often or you are in shift work, that's another option. But you can do it for free. One of the things I found is coming back, like you said. I have to talk about coming back because I came back and I going there, you're got a lot of adrenaline running, you're excited. There's a different feel to going somewhere than it is to returning home, right? You're coming back to work or whatever, you're away and you're, going. So there's a little bit of that going on. When I came back and I used Timeshifter on the way back, I drove 4 hours after landing from Boston to New York, and I was wide awake. And I landed at 1:30 in the afternoon, and I got home I even spent an hour or 2 in Boston, just like doing whatever. And then I drove to New Jersey where I live, and that was 4 hours. And somebody said, do you want something to keep you awake? Do you, and I said, no, I don't really take anything like that anyway. And I said, but I really feel fine. And they said, you do, and I did. And I mean, I mean, it was incredible. I never could do that before. ever.
So Ruth, maybe we should talk about why it works and what's different from, you know, the million other tools or the advice that you read about in all these various publications with 5 tips for eliminating jet lag and this lotion you can put on your skin, jet lag. Like there, I mean, every time I go to the airport, I see something new, and I Google jet lag online, I see something, you know, crazy. And unfortunately, it's just adding to our confusion, right? It's, you know, we're not reducing the amount of misconceptions, we're adding to them every day. It's unbelievable to me how people can get away with it. Even the media not really looking to the science for the answers. It's, you know, so that's sad and something we're up against all the time. Like everyone having different mechanisms or ideas. You know, that said, we all still struggle for jet lag. So are they really working? No, they're not. And so here's what I would say. When we travel, I know we're on Sleep Forum right now, so what I'm about to say is going to be a little bit counter to that label, because we shouldn't focus on sleep when we travel.
That's right.
We should focus on the circadian misalignment, because your circadian rhythm, your circadian clock in the brain, sleep is an output of that, not the other way around.
That's right.
So for that reason, anyone that are focusing on sleep-based solutions are going to lose when it comes to jet lag, period. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Well, before I give you some examples, maybe I can then tell what does work. So this clock, let's just take a step back here and look at the basic science. We have a circadian clock in the brain. I think most people here on this webinar knows about this, so I'm going to go through it very quickly. And if there's some questions, I'm happy to go deeper. But in our brain, we have a circadian clock. All right, and it's sort of the master clock, because we also have clocks in all of our biological systems in our body, metabolism, immune function, your heart, your liver. It's everywhere. Which is going to bring me to a point that I'm going to elaborate on in a little bit, which is we're not just affected in terms of sleep and alertness. Everything in our body is disrupted when we travel. Immune function is disrupted. Our digestion ability, like everything is disrupted. So anyway, this clock in the brain is the master clock, sort of the conductor of the orchestra of all the clocks you have in your body. And are trying to get everybody to be on the same page and support you when you're awake and help you recover and, you know, when you're asleep. The clock in the brain, contrary to what many thinks, the key time cue for it is light. It's light exposure and darkness. It is not food. It is not exercise. It is not some of those things that we've heard so many times. It's not intermittent fasting or fasting. Have you heard this? There's like this idea of you can do fasting and then that can alleviate jet lag. And that comes from a controversial mice study that was conducted about 15 years ago, never repeated in humans, and was controversial in and of itself. But the main point is, if you take blind people, completely blind people, and they have many circadian problems, because if their circadian rhythm is a little faster or slower than our rotation, Earth rotates around the sun, they're going to start to go to bed later and later and later every night, or earlier and earlier every night, depending on that. And food and exercise does not help them. They need the light cue. They need the light cue from, you know, being awake during the day and then close your eyes at night. They don't have that. So we know light is the key time cue. It's very, very important. And so the way to address jet lag is really by timing light exposure and light avoidance. And if we do that, we can control the circadian clock, and we can get to new time zones 3 to 4 times as fast as normal. That's the way. And then you'll sleep naturally when you're supposed to sleep, and you're going to be alert and awake and energized when you're supposed to be alert and awake and energized. So the whole sleep focus when you travel is not the right one. And then let's get to some of those examples where people use sleep as the way, right? So you have these folks that travel, they invest in an expensive business class seat or first class. They take an Ambien and go to sleep when they get on board the plane and try to get as much sleep on the plane as they can. Now, let's just assume for a second that when they're sleeping, they were supposed to see light to shift the clock, the circadian clock, towards the new time zone. What's happening when you sleep? You close your eyes, meaning you're now in darkness. What that'll do to you is you're shifting the circadian clock the wrong way, away from the new time zone, making jet lag even worse than it already was going to be. So that doesn't work. Sleep and business class, first class, Ambien, in consultation with your doctor, of course, can work for you if you time sleep correctly.
Right.
So I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in business class. I think that's great. But I'm saying don't sleep when you shouldn't sleep, when you should have seen bright light. So light is the key time cue. So it's all about timing that correctly. And unfortunately, there is no generic rules about this. Again, you see that in newspapers and on blog posts all the time. Just when you arrive, just go out in the sun and be on local time zone. No. For some people, they need to avoid light for a few hours when the sun is out at the destination. And again, by being out in bright light when they should avoid it, means that they're shifting the clock away from the new time zone.
Now, hold on one second.
So, yeah.
You just said, say that one more time. Sometimes people go somewhere, right? And it's light,
Yep.
but they shouldn't get light.
Correct. So you have situations depending on your individual. So this is different for every single person, right? No jet lag plan is the same for two people. It depends on your chronotype. It depends on your normal sleep pattern. It depends on your flights. When do you leave? How many time zones? Are you flying east? Are you flying west? All of those things come together and need to be the basis of any plan and any timing of light. You cannot do it without these information. You'd get the wrong advice. But there are times where you travel to a destination or you're about to leave to travel,
Okay.
and the sun is shining outside. And the generic advice we've heard so many times is just be out in the sun, right? It's going to reset you. It's going to be great for you.
Right.
But if you're seeing light at a time where your circadian clock is sensitive to light, but it's going to take you in the wrong direction, that light is going to just fast forward you away from your time zone. So then you need to, so that's not okay. So you cannot rely on that type of generic advice. You got to time it right. And, just to, obviously that's what the app does, right? It's helping you time these things correctly because it's not intuitive, it's difficult to do. But then, when you are talking about light, well, what do you do if you're out in the sun and you need to avoid light? You put on your dark sunglasses. It's not very difficult to be compliant to these things. And if you're in a dark plane and you need to see light, you look at the in-flight entertainment system or your iPad, and you increase the brightness and put some light on above you, and you're good. It's shifting you in the right direction. So it's pretty easy to be compliant with this type of stuff. There is one more thing that can help you shift to the new time zone, but this additional option doesn't work well without timing of light. So the timing of light is the absolute foundation. If you're talking about any jet lag solution, you cannot ignore the timing of light on a personalized level. Otherwise, it's not a solution. It won't work, period. It just won't work. But another option you can add to that equation is melatonin, but only the right type and the right dose at the right time. So melatonin, for me, I used it way before, many years before I even knew about circadian science. And I took, I bought some and I used it a few times when I traveled. And now in hindsight, I realized that what it did for me, and the only thing it did for me, is made me a little drowsy before bed. Now, what melatonin can do for you if you use the right dose and type is it can shift your clock faster. But the type that we buy in Walgreens and CVS is typically the wrong type. We buy 5-10 milligrams slow release. And what that does is it releases in your body over 6 hours time. It doesn't give a impactful hit to the clock in the brain saying it's night. Whereas quick release does that. So if it releases all at once, so quick resolve or quick release, it hits your circadian clock quickly and saying it's night, it's much better than slow release. And then you need a milligram that's much lower than the one we buy at Walgreens and CVS. You need from 0.5 milligram to 3 milligram. So you can't even buy 0.5 milligram. I mean, it's too little. For these, it's not available, I think, in most pharmacies. So you can complement melatonin, and what melatonin does, which everybody in the sleep space know, in your body before you go to bed, melatonin starts to produce a few hours ahead of time. Why does it start producing? Because your circadian clock anticipates that you're going to go to bed and sleep at a certain time based on what you did the previous nights. It's looking into the future. That's what the circadian clock does. It's not real time. It's saying tonight, all of us sitting here today, the circadian clock anticipates when you're going to go to sleep tonight.
Right.
And so if you ask before that, your body starts to produce melatonin. But when you cross time zones, it anticipates wrong. Mm-hmm. You're not going to sleep at the time it anticipates, which means that there's no melatonin for you. And melatonin is great for helping you ease into sleep. It's not really a sleep pill. It's not a sleep aid, but it does help you with the process of falling asleep and getting a little tired. And it also can help you to fall asleep quicker and maybe stay asleep a little longer. And so that's when we recommend melatonin. We do not recommend melatonin on a daily basis. We only recommend when you sleep at times you normally don't sleep. Melatonin supplement is helpful. So you don't need to use it. Light exposure and light avoidance is the key and is very powerful. But melatonin, the right type and dose, can certainly help get you there a little bit quicker.
So when you mentioned dose, you said 1/2 to 3 milligrams?
0.5 milligram to 3 milligram.
0.5 milligram to 3 milligrams.
Yeah, not 5 or 10. 10 is like an overdose of melatonin. Nobody needs 10. Like it's far more than your body produces. I mean, it's just crazy. You don't need it.
I mean, the other recommendation, I just want to throw that out there to people listening, is that you should probably try melatonin at home.
Yes.
Once before you go taking it on a plane for the first time, because you never know, right?
No, I agree. It seems on temporary, on a short-term basis, it seems to be safe. That's what we see. We always recommend, and the app tells you that as well, ground test it at home in bed before you use it on a plane. It'd be very sad if you had some side effect on the plane. So ground test it at home. And for those that need sleep aids, like sleep medication to fall asleep on the plane or are anxious about flying, and therefore, prefer to use, talk to your doctor about it, because, there could potentially be a way where you can use both. So right. You just use the sleep aid to fall asleep at the time you need to sleep according to, Timeshifter, but it's up to you and your doctor to figure that out and make sure that you don't get in trouble.
That's great. That kind of that's great that you just said that. It leads me to my next question.
And can I, Ruth, one more thing I just want to mention that is for those people that are looking at sleep aids again as an extra tool. When we work with Formula One drivers or astronauts, there actually is, short, like, how do I define them? There are other versions of sleep medication than the one you normally use to sleep. There are some that are short acting, only they're out of your blood in 3 hours. Intermezzo and others that you can talk to your doctor about, which are really meant for midnight wakings, where you don't have a full night to sleep after you take it. And those can be great on planes, or, if you, if you're an athlete and you need to compete, in the morning, and it might be and you have anxiety, whatever. Those are great, but talk to your doctor about those.
Yeah, that's really great advice. just one question. Are there any extra features that you're looking to add to the app in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we've now focused the last, with COVID disrupting sort of our, the whole travel, international travel, and therefore also our jet lag app. We moved on and started creating a new platform and the shift work app as well. But we have lots of new features that will come out over the next months. We're looking at, right now when you put in your itinerary, you use the flight ID and date, so you don't have to put in all the information about departure time, arrival time, and for every stopover and this and that. It would be a hassle. So we do that. We're adding a manual entry though for those that fly, private. So there are some companies that have senior executives flying on their private fleet. They don't have a flight ID that's public for us, so we're adding that. We're also adding custom sleep time. So if you want to sleep differently in your destination, if it's vacation, you want to sleep in a few hours, we can do that. If you want to synchronize your family, so everyone sleeps sort of aligned instead of what you do at home, maybe. So yeah, there are lots of things. We are only getting started.
I can see that.
But I think the really big thing that we've accomplished with Timeshifter, that was the big hurdle to get through, even and we got that done in the version 2 of it, is having multi-city trips and round trips, right? So there are some tools out there that are helping people get there. And we can talk all day long about how ours is different, our algorithm is different and safe versus, there's some that are recommending people to take melatonin in the afternoon. That's dangerous. People get tired, they go out driving. So anyway, we've accomplished a lot with the current version. The big thing, the 3 big things that really are unique is that it helps you, it's intelligent about going there and back. It takes stopovers into account, or multi-city stops. So you stop in one town, you're there for a day, and then you move on. It can figure all of that out on its own. Then there's the practicality filter. So we're not going to ask you to do something we know you're not able to do. I'll give you 2 examples of that. If you arrive in Hong Kong, we're not going to ask you to go to sleep because you need your luggage, go in a cab, go to your hotel, check in, unpack, get your toothbrush, brush your teeth before you can go to bed and sleep. We know that. So we're not going to ask you to do these crazy things. Another example is we're not going to ask you to sleep during the day and be awake during the night when you arrive, because we know you're there to either enjoy your vacation or be there for business meetings. So we are having this layer, we call it a science modification, layer that are changing the mathematical model behind our algorithm to accommodate your life, the reality we all have. And that's one big deal that makes it realistic for people to use and more enjoyable. The last one I want to mention is the quick turnarounds, right? So you have a business trip and you go there for 1 or 2 nights and then back home. Are you going to fully adapt to that time zone or what? And the answer is probably not, but we're going to help you. The algorithm knows what you're trying to do based on the itinerary, and it's going to help you be at your best when you're there and get you straight back to your home time zone the best possible way. So anyway, the feature set going forward, it's going to be expanded. We're looking at, automatic updates of flight delays. We're going to look at all kinds of fun stuff that makes it easier, integration into wearables. There's not a whole lot we can use from wearables yet to help us with circadian. I find it, I don't know about you, Ruth, but I'm really excited about what technology can do for people. But I still feel that many of the sleep trackers and fitness trackers are giving us tons of data, but very few solutions. And so, one thing that we can use from wearables, though, and there will be more things going forward, but is your dynamic sleep, the actual sleep, not just what you're telling us, but how much did you sleep from when to when, and that can then update your jet lag plan. So there are different things going on that will make the experience even more frictionless and easy.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I just love what you're doing. I think it's so progressive. It's going to change the way that we travel. And it just, I mean, it was a lifesaver for me, because I honestly would not have been able to make it back from Boston to New Jersey had I not followed the Timeshifter plan. Now it's, I mean, mind you, I'm going to be honest. Is it perfect? No.
No,
Is any app perfect? No. But we're not perfect. I mean, there's a human element there too. So
there is.
as every app is great to the point that you use it.
Correct.
Right?
It's not a silver bullet.
It's not.
And it's not a silver bullet, because sometimes we decide that we're going to overrule what the app wants us to do and do something different. Now, the good news is, based on about 100,000 post-travel surveys, we know that if you follow the app's advice 80% or more, there's a 96.4% of travelers that are not struggling with severe, very severe jet lag.
Right.
But if you don't follow the advice, there's a 6%, there's a 6 times increase. So 600% increase in severe jet lag and a 16-time increase in very severe jet lag.
Right.
And these are subjective response, but a perfect dose response, by the way. If you look at the data, perfect dose response, the more jet lag, the more time zones, the more jet lag, with or without Timeshifter, it's perfect dose response. But even if you look at objective data from your Oura Ring, or you can see that you recover much more fast. So yes, I'm not saying to people, in fact, I don't do that myself. There are some hacks we can talk about in a second to comply even better to what the app wants us to do. But as long as you follow it to some extent, you're going to get massive benefits. And you have 2 people going. We had people go. The best example really was when the Global Wellness Summit in Singapore in 2019. Lots of people came from America to Singapore, so it's a big shift. And I don't know. I think 1/3 of the people use Timeshifter. They all got it offered before they went. And in the first days, it was funny to see everybody talked about it. Like, did you use it? No. And do you feel terrible? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I used it and I feel great. And I feel, I know I'm, but what people said, and, was more people showed up at the night events that had used Timeshifter in the beginning. So it really is fun to see people traveling together, where some people use it and some people don't, because then you get the stark contrast between how people enjoy and perform.
So true, so true. And you know what? I mean, I follow it 100% of the time? No. I followed it probably 90% of the time. And you know what? So that's how much better I felt, right? Like, It's not like I felt perfect.
So let's talk, Ruth, let's talk about one thing that you might or might not have been able to do perfectly, because this is a thing that comes up once in a while. And it's just funny to see how we can get around it. It's sort of a little bit more advanced in terms of, so we are recommending sleep also on the plane, when to sleep on the plane. And sometimes people can't sleep as much as we want them to sleep on a flight, for example. And then after they wake up, they might have slept for 4 hours. Maybe they should have slept 6 hours. This is certainly not, the standards that we want to see from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine here, where you need 7.5 hours minimum every day, but you're traveling, so it's not always possible on a flight to get the sleep you need. And then because you're sleeping at a different time, it's difficult. So now you wake up from sleep. What do? If you should have slept another hour or 2, don't, watch a movie. Don't take your sleep mask off. Stay in darkness, because what affects your circadian clock is the light and darkness. And when you sleep, we're expecting you to see darkness. So on the plane, you would be able to just put on your dark sunglasses or keep your sleep mask on, even though you're not sleeping, and you would still shift in the right direction.
Right.
So those are some of the things you need to play with over, multiple time shifts, and then you get better and better.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it again. Like it's almost like I felt challenged, by using it. I was like, it reminded me what to do, and I wanted to do it. And I can't, like, when I do it again, I feel like I'll do a better job at it. But sometimes, human nature just wants to fight it. And
Yep.
that's just the way it goes. But I have to tell you, even if it doesn't eliminate jet lag, if it reduces jet lag, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Like, if you feel like gonna feel the whole jet lag, you're gonna ruin 2 days of your trip.
Yep.
But at least if you minimize it,
Yep.
I'll take it.
I mean, you can like, and to your point, you can't eliminate jet lag. It's there. The question is how long. Is 6 time zones going to take you 6 days to get over, or 1 or 2 days?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And how you're going to feel while you're doing it, right? If you do some pre-adoption before you go, which the app allows you to, you might not even feel anything when you get there. Even though I go often from New York to Europe, six time zones east, which is the worst direction for me. Before, I'd wake up in the morning and couldn't get up in the morning because it would be in the middle of the night in my internal time. And now I wake up 7:30 on my own, and I sleep through the nights. Second night, I would never do that in the past.
Right.
And that difference is fantastic. So,
Right.
so
But
it's not a silver bullet. I wish we could just,
Yeah.
I wish we could just take a pill and then it would be gone, but we can't.
No, but if we can minimize it, that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Yes.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you so much. I mean, we covered so much information in our time on the call today. I will be definitely posting this recording along with your website. But I want to thank you so much for all that you're doing and for creating such a cool app.
Thank you, Ruth. And just as a final, comment, when you do this, if you haven't done it already, I mean, clearly you have, but if there's somebody out there that have not done it before, the first time you're doing it, think about the following. This is the first time ever, most likely, that you have proactively taken control of your circadian clock. And the implications of that, not just in the area of travel and jet lag, but for shift workers, for peak performance, for the timing of medications in the future, for preparing for medical treatments, for dealing with all kinds of other big problems is profound. And so in 5 years, when we talk again, we'll talk a lot more early than that, but when in 5 years we talk about circadian science and circadian rhythms, my belief is it'll be very, very big. Like sleep has become over the last 10 years, sleep industry, sleep economy has become enormous. The circadian tech industry is just getting started and has a lot to offer. So I'd say in 5 years, in 2 years, 3 years from now, we're looking back at this call saying, wow, we just talked about jet lag and but now we're doing all these things with it. There is so much good stuff in here that can create real solutions and not just show you a nice graph in an app.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ruth. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for being on. And we'll be on soon again. Talk to you soon.